For over 2,000 years, humanity has been haunted by the fear of a place called hell, a fiery pit of eternal punishment, torment and pain. It's been burned into our minds through sermons, movies and nightmares. But what if the hell we fear was never real to begin with? Open the Bible, read with your own eyes, not through centuries of manipulated interpretation. Jesus spoke of love, redemption, not fire and eternal suffering. The apostles preached hope and truth, not horror stories. The hell we know today isn't in their words. It's in the distortion of their message. Take Gehenna, a word Jesus used. It wasn't a mystical realm of flames, but a literal valley outside Jerusalem, where trash, animal carcasses, and even executed criminals were burned. A real, physical place, used as a metaphor, but never intended as a destination for souls. Then there's Hades, often mistranslated as hell. But in Greek mythology, Hades was a neutral underworld, not a torture chamber. And yet it crept into church teachings, reshaped by Roman politics and pagan influence to become something far more terrifying than Scripture ever meant. So where did our modern version of hell, fire, devils, torture, and screaming souls, actually come from? Not from divine revelation. It came from men in power, from a church that, in the darkness of the Middle Ages, needed fear to rule over minds and hearts. They realized something sinister. If people feared eternal flames, they would obey without question, and so began a campaign, not of faith, but of psychological control. Believe what you're told, or burn forever. A message preached from pulpits, not from heaven. And who were these supposed sinners bound for hell? Women who healed the sick, thinkers who questioned, rebels who dreamed of freedom. They weren't damned for evil. They were condemned for thinking differently, for challenging the monopoly of the church. Then came Dante Alighieri, a poet, not a prophet. His Divine Comedy, written in the 14th century, imagined a hell more detailed and grotesque than any religious text. 9 circles, demons, betrayers frozen in ice, punishments designed for shock and spectacle, not salvation. But instead of treating it as fiction, the church embraced Dante's vision. They turned literature into dogma, his metaphors into theology. And from that moment on, hell was no longer metaphor. It was real, it was terrifying, and it became the ultimate tool of submission. Generation after generation, believers were raised in fear, children were warned, artists depicted scenes of burning flesh, preachers shouted about flames and demons, and all along, no one noticed that the Bible never said what they were claiming. Scholars began to notice. Linguists, historians, theologians, they uncovered the truth behind the words. Gehenna, Sheol, Hades. None of them meant eternal hellfire, but speaking that truth out loud meant being silenced, ridiculed, or worse, excommunicated. The church kept the truth buried, manuscripts hidden, ancient texts untranslated, because if hell was proven false, the empire of fear would collapse, and without fear, there would be no control, no unquestioned obedience, no power. Hell was never a place beneath our feet. It was a concept above our heads, held like a sword over our lives, a myth forged for dominance, a brilliant lie used to dominate generations through psychological terror. But the lie is unraveling. People are asking questions, they're reading, they're waking up, and they're beginning to see that fear has no place in faith. That truth doesn't need flames to burn. It just needs courage to be seen. So now it's your turn. Step out of the illusion, let go of the chains, because the greatest punishment isn't fire, it's living in fear of a lie. And the greatest liberation is knowing you've been deceived and choosing truth instead. If this story opened your eyes, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new video that reveals the hidden side of history and faith.